Good evening. Welcome to the Caucus meeting for the Florence City Council. First item is discussion by Todd Morgan. It's a consideration of a resolution R2507-027A of the Boone County Planning Commission recommending approval with conditions for request from Greenberg Farrow per Brandon Goldberg, applicant for Turfway Commons Trust owner for a change in approved concept development plan in a commercial 2 plan development Houston Donaldson Study Corridor Overlay. That's a C2 PD HDO district for an approximate 1.55 acre area located along the northwest side of Houston Road between 5001 Houston Road and 4953 Houston Road, and being part of the properties at 4999 Houston Road and 4951 to 4997 Houston Road, Florence, Kentucky, and providing the recommendation before to the City of Florence, Kentucky. So, Todd, I know that we did have a Planning and Zoning Committee meeting on this matter, but I'd like to have you go forward with the presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to go on screen here. Of course, we're looking at a 1.55 acre area located between Texas Roadhouse and Family Allergy and Asthma, fronting on Houston Road. It is a change in concept plan application to allow a Jaggers restaurant. Zoning of the property is Commercial 2 Plan Development, Houston Donaldson Study Overlay. Future land use map shows the site forecasted for commercial uses in the year 2040. This is a view of the outlot area from Houston Road. Of course, that's Texas Roadhouse, Family Allergy and Asthma. The new building would be pretty much right in the middle of those two. View northeast from the parking lot. I showed this slide just to show you the grade change between Houston Road and the outlot or the parking lot. Just a view the other way, same grade change. This is the concept plan, of course, imposed on an aerial map. Would like to point out on this that access would be from the strip center parking lot, the main driveway aisle that goes from east to west. So there's many different curb cuts or access points that you could come down and park, much like Texas Roadhouse. This is a blow-up of the concept plan. This is the revision that was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Committee. Shows about a 3,500 square foot restaurant. There's 93 indoor seats. There's an outdoor seating area in front of the building. There's 2 drive-through lanes. They merge back after you order, so all customers would get in this one after they order. There is a detached canopy that covers the 2 menu boards. There's 54 parking spaces on site, and there's 2 sidewalk connections that are proposed. One is right here that goes over towards Texas Roadhouse, and there's another one that gets you up to the strip center parking lot right in here with that crosswalk. The building elevations were upgraded greatly through the process. So these are the original ones that were submitted with a plan development zone. 50% of the building is supposed to be a masonry product. So you can see these were short of that, 37% brick, 48, 43, and 45 were on the original elevations. With the revisions, we're up to 58%, 53, 50, and 62. So the building now complies with the plan development standard regarding masonry. This is the building material sample board. This is also one of the revised plans. It shows the 2 different shades of brick, the corrugated red metal that would be used as kind of an awning, and also the EFIS or synthetic stucco that would be used on the building. As far as that detached canopy, it would kind of replicate what was done at Chick-fil-A, so you can see full height columns that would be done in brick to match the building. This was the sightline study that was done. So if you look from Houston Road and you're looking at the building, you can see that the roof mechanicals would be shielded or largely shielded from view. So this would be your sight line. This is the revised landscape plan that came in. It shows all the landscaping, large trees and shrubs that would be added to the site and also the street frontage. It's a little bit unfortunate about that grade change because a lot of that landscaping right here will be well beneath the road. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this with 16 different conditions. We did do, as far as the Planning and Zoning Committee, some revisions to them, so I'm just going to go over these. The proposed development shall be consistent with the revised concept plans that I just showed. Number 2, the detached drive-through canopy shall comply with the following. No part of this structure shall be in the front yard. All support poles shall be fully wrapped in brick that matches the building. Then as far as number 3, drive-through stacking shall be permitted per the approved concept plans if repeated complaints and city verification show that queuing is causing unsafe or obstructed conditions on public roadways, the main east-west driveway in the shopping center, or adjoining properties. The city may require corrective measures and may temporarily suspend drive-through operations. Except in an emergency, the city will provide at least 48 hours written notice to the property owner and operator. Drive-through operations may resume after the city and the property owner agree on corrective actions and the city confirms the issue has been resolved. Number 4, the driveway between the drive-through lane and Houston Road shall be signed and marked as a one-way east movement. 5, the following landscaping conditions would apply. The islands in the parking lot located to the west and north of the proposed building shall provide landscaping in accordance with Section 3625 of the zoning regulations, and the islands located to the south and east of the proposed building shall provide landscaping in the form of large shrubs. B, the trees planted in the Houston Road street frontage buffer shall be evenly dispersed along the front property line. And C, the transformers shown in the street frontage buffer shall be screened with large shrubs. 6, all new light poles shall match the existing light poles as they relate to size, style, and height. 7, lit handicapped accessible crosswalks shall be provided from, first, the proposed building to the Texas Roadhouse lot, second, the proposed building to the east-west driveway aisle. 8, barriers shall be provided to prevent vehicles from entering the second drive-through lane from the main driveway aisle. 9, a shared parking agreement and access easement shall be provided with the major site plan application. 10, the following signage conditions shall apply. A freestanding sign shall not be permitted on the outlot. Second part, the building-mounted LED striping package shall be reviewed through the Boone County Planning Commission's design review application process, and that's normal. Number 11, roof-mounted mechanical equipment shall be lower than the building's parapet walls per the sightline concept plan. It's understood that some roof equipment may be visible from Houston Road because of the grade change between Houston Road and the building site. Lastly, the outside seating areas shall be reviewed through the Boone County Planning Commission's design review application process and comply with the following. First, the area shall be fenced per the approved concept plan. Secondly, metal architectural grade picnic tables and trash cans shall be required. Lastly, proposed umbrellas shall match and coordinate with the building color scheme. Advertisements shall not be permitted on umbrellas. So that was the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Committee. And that's all I have on this.
Ms. Wingo or Mr. Nguyen, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I think Todd covered everything pretty well. We did eliminate a few conditions that had been, came to us from the Planning Commission because they had already made those changes, so they were no longer necessary to be included in the conditions.
And your committee did recommend
We did
approval
recommend.
with the additional conditions. No need for additional public hearing, correct? Thank you. Any discussion from council? Ms. Whalen?
I guess just a question, the condition in there that talks about the drive-through
Yes.
and the potential of it causing problems backing up into either the parking lot or to the drive-through lane, a problem that we have in several other locations. The fact that it's memorialized in a condition, is that going to be a tough one to enforce? Is that something that they've agreed to as far as recognizing that the city
Yes.
will have that authority if they impede traffic or cause an issue?
Yes, the applicant and property owner have signed that condition letter.
And then I guess as far as, we've always got concerns about roadways and traffic, and the limited access in and out is through the parking lot and through that connector road, same as Texas Roadhouse and I'm not sure is it an allergy place now? Is that what
Yes.
it was? So I don't necessarily see that as a problem, but did they have any comment or concerns about the no left turn out of the one roadway onto Spiral or accessing Spiral by going around Sam's?
No issue.
If I may,
Ms. Wingo?
there is a left turn access point if you
Down
go up
further.
close to the building.
To the guitar
So you can
place.
still, yeah. if
In
you
front of
go to,
Guitar
like,
Center.
Guitar place,
Okay.
there's, yeah.
I've just
You
never-
can make that
Yeah.
left turn out of there.
I've never gone down that way.
Yeah. Yes, because you aren't supposed to turn left at the other
You're not
one.
supposed to, but we know how people feel about, not supposed to. Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Just, I
Any
know
other
we-
comments?
Sorry.
Ms.
I know
Cable?
that we spoke earlier today. Do you know if you're able to, or how long it would take to determine if there was a crash analysis in that area we talked about today?
I did hear back from the police department today, there were no traffic accidents at that intersection in the last year.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, thank you. Next is consideration of Resolution R-25-028A relating to the adoption of zoning text amendments to the Boone County zoning regulations applicable to the Boone County Fiscal Court and legislative bodies for the City of Florence, Walton, and Union as members of the Boone County, Kentucky Planning Unit, and recommending that the zoning text amendments with a condition be considered for enactment to regulate and define commercial parking, freight container, freight terminal, semi-trailer, trailer, truck, and truck tractor, and identify zoning districts where such uses are allowed as authorized uses within the Boone County Planning Unit for Boone County, Kentucky. These text amendments to the Boone County zoning regulations being to Article 40, Section 4000, Article 5, Section 505.2, Article 5, Section 505.3, Article 5, Section 505.4, Article 5, Section 505.5, Article 10, Section 1003.6, Article 11, Section 1102.6, Article 11, Section 1103.6, and Article 13, Section 1303.7, subject to the recommended terms and provisions set forth in these recommended zoning text amendments set forth in the Technical Design Review Committee report, providing this resolution as a recommendation be forwarded to the Boone County Fiscal Court, cities comprising the Boone County Planning Unit for consideration by their legislative bodies. We did have this discussed at our Planning and Zoning Committee. Mr. Morgan, would you like to make a presentation?
Sure. Okay, on screen again, the first thing I wanted to do was show everybody what a motor freight terminal is. So it's basically where truck parking is the principal use on a site. And of course, this is in Richwood in Boone County. So you can see that all the trucks parked. This is right off of Dixie Highway, Transport Drive. Just another view of it. So again, you can see all the trucks. There's no building on that site, so that is the principal use of the property. So that's really the subject, the majority of the text amendment is dealing with that issue. So as a little bit of history, back in December of '24, Fiscal Court asked the Planning Commission to review potential changes to the definition of commercial parking to include cars and trucks. Commercial parking is basically what you see up at the airport parking ride. That's considered commercial parking. And that original definition for that talked about all motor vehicles, and now that has been changed to just basically exclusively say passenger vehicles for that. So then in April of last year and May, Fiscal Court determined that they did not want to wait for the zoning update and asked the Planning Commission to prepare additional text to address the truck parking problem in the county. So these current definitions are found in the zoning regulations. We have commercial parking, again, is like an airport parking ride. There's also definitions for commercial vehicle, what a parking space is, what a recreational vehicle is, trailer, what a truck stop, and warehousing and distribution. Currently, today, a motor freight terminal would be construed as warehousing and distribution. So with that, they would be permitted in I-1 zones, I-2, and airport in the city of Florence. There are no use restrictions, and what I mean by that, there are no standards. If you meet the definitions of the zoning regulations, and so with this text amendment, we've added several use standards on. There are things that have to be done. So the Planning Commission looked at the following and analyzed the following. The definition for commercial parking needs to be amended to clarify that trucks and trailers are not included in the definition. New definitions are needed for trucks and trailers. A new use category needs to be added to properly distinguish truck parking from commercial parking and warehousing and distribution. So that's where the motor freight terminal use is coming in. Specific use standards need to be established. So the first part of this is you can see the commercial parking definition was amended, and that definition was modified to clarify that commercial parking does not include truck parking. The other big change, which I have highlighted, is the new term, freight terminal, which is a building or area in which tractors, trailers, or semi-trailers are parked or stored on a temporary basis, including the transfer, loading, or unloading of goods. So then when you get into the use matrices and the zoning regulations, you have this new use, again, freight terminal. So you can see there, they would not be allowed in any agricultural, recreation, or conservation district. They would not be allowed in any residential district. You get to commercial zones, and everybody but the city is allowing them as a conditional use. The city of Florence is prohibiting them in C3 or commercial services zones. So these use standards would not apply. And the reason for that is C3 districts are high visibility, high access areas in the county. So for example, this is one of many examples. This is Turfway Road in the interstate, which is a highly visible area. If we didn't prohibit that, it's possible a motor freight terminal could be allowed here. And that's not the aesthetic staff or the Planning and Zoning Committee wanted to see in a C3. They feel like they're more appropriate in industrial or airport zones than C3. So that's why we are recommending that it be prohibited in C3. Going back to the use matrices, motor freight terminals will be allowed in I-1 and I-2 zones and subject to use standards. So once again, those things are a given. So the revised use standards that's being recommended by the City Planning and Zoning Committee are the following. The use shall not be permitted of adjoining a residentially or agriculturally zoned piece of property. Street frontage buffer shall contain all required plantings per section 3620 of the zoning regulation. Secondly, staggered undulating berms which range from 3.5 feet to 4 feet tall at crest should be provided throughout the buffer. Access shall only be from a subcollector, collector, or arterial street. All trucks, truck tractors, trailers, or semi-trailers shall be operable and road-ready. 5, trucks or truck tractors shall not idle while parked. 6, refrigerated trailers or semi-trailers shall not be in operation unless they are entering or exiting the freight terminal. And lastly, the storage of freight containers shall be subject to the following. First part, stacked freight containers shall be set back a minimum of 100 feet from a public or private street right-of-way. Secondly, stacked freight containers shall not exceed 2 containers or 17 feet in height. So that is where they would be allowed and the use standards for I-1 and I-2. The last use matrices applies to public facility, airport, and small community overlay and special study areas. You can see the C in the airport zone, so that means it's a conditional use, meaning it would have to go to the Board of Adjustment for approval through a public hearing process. The City of Florence use standards would be the same 7 I just read off to you for the I-1 and I-2 zones, so I'm not going to read over those again, but if there's any questions, feel free to ask. Just a quick map. This is really the one portion of Florence. The City of Florence is in yellow shading. Unincorporated Boone is in green. So we do have some airport zoning. So it might be appropriate in this area. Again, the Board of Adjustment would make that determination. And by the use standards, it would not be allowed on this piece because the mobile home park is a residential zone. So this would be excluded from consideration. That's what I have on motor freight terminals.
Is there any questions or discussion?
So I guess where would they be permitted? There is the only place without a conditional use permit?
An airport zone, again, it would be a conditional use. So right now, today, the only vacant lot left on Bushelman is this piece. So hypothetically, that someone could ask for a conditional use, the Board of Adjustment would take that up and determine if that use is appropriate on that piece of property.
But everywhere else within the city?
Everywhere else in the city, well, again, they were allowed, principally permitted in I-1 and I-2.
Right.
And really, and then airport. C3, they're not allowed, unlike the county, Walton, and Union.
Ms. Wingo and Mr. Nguyen, did you have any?
Yeah, we did review this pretty closely. The county is permitting 4 container height, and they are not restricting them. Do they have a setback on the?
They do not.
They don't.
It would
do
just
they?
have to be outside the street frontage buffer,
Right,
which is 10
the
feet wide, or a landscape buffer, which is 10 feet wide
Yeah,
normally.
we really felt like 4 container stacks high was just too much. So we thought that 2 would be more appropriate for the city. Other than that, yep, recommendation for approval with these conditions, and no need for a additional public hearing.
Leslie?
Are there currently places that are being used for this purpose, which are going to have to stop using?
Anything in the county wasn't conforming, they would be grandfathered in. So this would only apply to a new business wanting to go in. Anything else would be grandfathered. But I do not believe we have this use anywhere in the city limits today, where it's the principal use on a property. So there would be nothing grandfathered in the city.
So there's no lots in the city right
Correct.
now where people are parking their,
That's the only thing they're doing. There might be like an industrial place that has, in addition, like they have, maybe they're industrial or manufacturing, and then they also have parking.
Yeah, so any warehousing and distribution use, they're going to have accessory truck parking. This, again, is the principal use, so it's the only activity occurring on the lot
Or
is
the
truck
main-
parking.
Main use, yeah.
Yeah, principal use.
Any other discussion? All right, thank you, Todd. Next, I'm going to call on Jason Lewis to discuss the insurance premium tax. And Josh.
Just so council's aware, this item follows the memo that I sent out, and also sent a memo out around August or September of this past year talking about insurance premium tax rates. At that time, we had asked for additional time to, early 2026 to allow for additional revenue data and economic clarity. So consistent with that recommendation, it is upon us. And Jason is going to run through what our recommendations are, which are largely based off the memo that was presented in your packet this past Friday.
All right, so here I have, 6 years of actual data, and then this current fiscal year for budgeted. So this shows, this is directly from our transparency website, so anyone in the public can go look at this. This is under the revenue tab. So it shows a nice chart here, and we can see that for budgeted insurance premium tax collections over the past 6 years, we can see that we've always gone over budget, and that's a good thing on the revenue side. So we've come in over our forecasted revenue collections for insurance premium tax for the previous year. So unaudited figures here, the insurance premium tax collections came in almost $1 million over. So from a revenue collection standpoint, that's a good thing. And then you can see that we budgeted for about $4 million in insurance premium tax collections for this current fiscal year that we're in. In terms of the percentage of total revenue that insurance premium taxes make up, from a budget standpoint, it's around 7%. From an actual standpoint here, it's around 9%. So, this is a significant piece of the pie in terms of our general fund revenue. You can see that last fiscal year, 24-25, we came in close to around 55 million, and our expenses are right around there too. So very much a balanced budget from a general fund perspective, and we came in well over revenue projections here. And then I want to take a look at the possibility of a 20% rate cut. So going from 5%, so the overall rate being 5% to 4%. And again, this time I'm going to project out a couple years just to show the revenue we would forego as a city if we were to pursue that option of a 20% rate cut. You could see, so fiscal year 2026, the year we're in, we're on track to hit around $5 million in insurance premium tax collections. Going forward, that goes up around $100,000 every year, conservatively, I would say. And just looking at the next 3 years, if we were to cut the rate 20% from 5 to 4, the next 3 years we would lose out on around $3 million in revenue. So just a few key takeaways, and we're keeping it short here so we can discuss. But again, a 20% tax rate from 5 to 4% results in around a $5 million hurt to the city budget over the next 5 years. This hurt does not create an imbalance in the city's general fund operating budget. In other words, if we forego around $1 million a year in revenue, that does not significantly impact our operations as a city. And then, I think it's key to point out here that further and more significant cuts, whether it's in insurance premium taxes or property tax or any sort of our key revenue drivers, that would, over time, create a budget deficit for us within the general fund. And once you have that budget deficit, you have to think about the hard choice discussions to offset those hurts. So I think that's where we stand. I think the 20% tax rate cut is something that the city could absorb, without having to make, the significantly difficult choices that further cuts would necessitate. So kept it short for us here. Josh, do you have anything to add?
Just open up for questions.
Ms. Whalen?
So the budget for fiscal year '26 is $4 million for the insurance premium tax. That's what we budgeted, 4 million revenue?
Correct.
And we're in line to collect $5 million in fiscal year '26.
Correct.
So we're already in line to collect an additional $1 million in insurance premium tax over and above what's incorporated into the budget.
That's right.
So I guess when you say if we cut it from 5 to 4, we will see a reduction of $1 million in revenue, but we're already booking on $1 million more than we budgeted to start with. So I guess from that perspective, we budgeted 4, we're going to make 5, and cutting it 1% will bump it back down to 4. So there's not really any direct impact on the revenue stream per se.
There is from an actual standpoint, from what revenues we actually collect. From a budgeting standpoint, I would say that there's not a huge impact.
Right.
No.
But we budget $4 million, we spend $4 million. That's the balanced budget theory that we operate under.
Sure.
So when we budget $4 million and collect $5 million, that leaves us with a $1 million surplus in that line item that rolls over into the fund balance.
Right. It goes into this pot here, I would say. So the total general fund revenues.
And the conversation, I guess, got started basically on the fact that everybody's insurance premiums have gone up. We're not paying the same premium for our cars, for our houses, for anything else. And as our insurance premiums go up, so go our taxes hand in hand. People are seeing substantial increases in insurance premiums just because of hurricanes and tornadoes and car crashes and snowstorms and all the things that go in, excuse me, to what the insurance companies are paying out. So the only way we can directly impact the majority of our residents, because they all pay insurance premiums on cars and houses and apartment rentals, and I mean, that's the only thing that the majority of our residents pay taxes on, is to see a reduction in this. And while I understand the elimination of it is not something that we necessarily want to go down a path on, It's one of the few revenue streams that we are permitted to collect in accordance with the state laws. Cities are not able to institute a parks tax without passing a referendum. We're not able to have a sales tax. It's all of those things that we can't is so much different than the state of Ohio, and insurance premium tax is one of those things. I want to see some relief given to our residents. I see a big increase. I know I'm overinsured, absolutely overinsured, but my premiums have gone sky high. And I can look at the total I'm paying every year, and it runs pretty close to, matching maybe the real estate taxes, maybe. But as my value of my house went up, so did the value of my insurance policies, so did my insurance premium. All of those things I say to say 1% will reduce it $1 million. We are already $1 million over what we budgeted for this year and budgeted to spend. So maybe a greater reduction than 1%, and the ability to look at this or have council include this in the budget discussions every year to talk about what we can and can't do, what we should or shouldn't do as far as the rate for our insurance premium tax, the same way we have a discussion every year about our real estate tax rates. Because it's not something that's ever just comes up on an annual basis. We have it, we've collected it, we dropped it from 8 to 5, I don't know, 8 years ago?
2018, I believe, yeah.
About 8 years ago. So from that perspective, since we're already on track to collect $1 million more than we anticipated or budgeted for, $1 million reduction would just bring it back down to current year rates.
Any other
I
discussion?
don't disagree with any of that. I think if you just look at fiscal year 2020, collections have gone up $2 million. That's 40%. It's a lot, without a doubt. And obviously, if it was still at 8, it would be much higher. So I don't disagree with anything you said there.
We also believe that the assessments have kind of topped out, right? Like,
Yeah.
I hope they have, good Lord. We're not anticipating some of the crazy assessments that have taken place over the last 3 or 4 years. So the baseline is a lot more modest. I think what you're projecting is like 1%. But operational costs are going up a lot more, so we have to look at, and we did look at all that, and that's why we recommended that. So we're just gonna have to look at what next year's operational costs would be and how this would be in line with that.
Correct.
And
And
while
that's-
assessments may not be skyrocketing like they did when people were selling their houses for astronomical prices, a quarter of the county is reassessed every year anyway. So they're going to come back to the houses that haven't been hit with reassessment and reassess them, which will also increase the premium that people are paying on their insurance. You don't get away from the reassessment of the PBA.
Fortunately, don't. There is a bill they're looking at passing that locks you in once you're 65, but we'll see if that
But
goes
we won't be
through.
grandfathered into that.
All right.
Oh, we would?
No, if you've already hit 65, you're not going to get your taxes reduced to what it was when it was 65.
Got ya.
It may not go up now, but
Got it, okay.
I'm still paying more than I would be when I was 65.
It is,
Not that I'm older than that.
when we sent out the memo, I think it was in August, there was an attachment that also talked about other like cities or other cities in northern Kentucky and what their insurance premium rate is. It's really kind of astounding looking at some of those other cities. You said we just went with a 4%, that would put us lowest in northern Kentucky by far, quite possibly the lowest in the state from the insurance premium perspective. Keep in mind that not all cities collect it, but for the cities that do collect it, that would be the lowest rate out there, period.
But I guess the question is, how much are they collecting? Even if they're at 12% in Newport or Covington or whatever the insurance premium rate, tax rate is there, how much revenue are they actually collecting with that 12% insurance premium tax?
The business districts are where the money is at with this in a lot of ways, right? They're paying a lot higher premiums, so I'd say they do pretty well down there.
Might be worth checking out.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Leslie?
Do we have a breakdown of how much comes from residents versus how much comes from businesses?
Well, I'm sorry?
What was the breakdown on the insurance premium that we collect from residents versus businesses?
I don't know that I broke.
I don't have that
I
offhand.
don't know, I didn't break that down. I was playing with some numbers of, who benefits more when you start looking at insurance premium tax rate, a resident or a business. Businesses absolutely pay more in premiums, so they're gonna get the bigger bang for a buck. I looked at a hotel, I actually called somebody I know that owns a hotel. They give me the breakdown of what you pay. They were gonna save, $2,500 a month. And then if you look at an average $250,000 home, I think it was about $7 a month. So it does add up, but the businesses, not a lot of people understand this. Businesses offset the cost of operating in the city of Florence. We don't have super high tax rates that go after our businesses, but it's about 2/3 is what they offset in terms of our operational cost. And that's the fortunate side of having more businesses than anybody else in northern Kentucky.
All right.
Well, I guess the other piece of this has to be at the Department of Insurance. Any change we make has to be passed by ordinance with 2 readings and published prior to what day? When does it have to be in Frankfurt?
It's 100 days before July 1, so if someone wants to break out a calendar and tell me that, if we get it done in February, we are good.
Well within, yeah.
Yeah. That is what the requirement is. There's something else that I learned through this research in KRS, which is important to know. A lot of people think that insurance premium is charged like on your health insurance policies. That was because it says health. That's not actually the case. Nobody pays that. It may be charged on some specific health riders, but it's not charged to your actual, like what you're paying for your medical insurance every month, so.
What about life insurance or?
Life insurance, yeah, and when you get into looking at the data from other cities, there is a lot of rates that fluctuate. A lot of times it's not 10% across the board. It could be higher for life insurance or lower for life insurance.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody did some kind of actuarial analysis on that, and there's a reason for it. Maybe they sold life insurance, I don't know, but it does fluctuate a lot throughout the state.
But there is no documentation that arrives from the insurance companies when they make these payments to the city. You just get a check.
Correct.
So we have no idea what the premiums are that they're collecting. We get a check from the insurance company for a dollar amount that has no documentation and no way to determine right, wrong, or indifferent.
Correct.
When we created, I guess, Orleans and gave it a 41091 zip code because the post office was dedicated to Union, there was a lot of confusion about whether those pieces of property were in the city of Florence and should be charged insurance premium tax, or were not in the city of Florence and shouldn't be. Just like Oak Brook with its 41042, a lot of those residents were paying insurance premium tax. Those things have all been sorted out and documented, and they do a better job at the insurance companies now. But there is no documentation other than a check that arrives from the insurance company every year, I guess. Once a year they send them in.
Correct, and the legislation allows it to do that, and I read somewhere somebody talking about the fees associated with that. That's not a city fee.
Yeah,
I'm sure some
no.
lobbyist somewhere got tacked onto the bill that these insurance companies actually get to charge a fee for collection of this. That is a state legislation. It's defined in KRS, very clear. It has nothing to do with the city. We don't recoup any of that cost. That's not our fee.
It's an additional 2% that they collect on the premium itself.
Correct.
It's
That's
kind of
state
baffling.
law.
You go buy a pair of shoes at Kohl's, they charge you sales tax, they don't charge you a fee to collect that sales tax. It's baffling that the insurance companies,
Somebody had a great lobbyist.
they had a great
That's what
lobbyist,
I've
yeah.
always said about it.
All right.
So I guess the question is, where are we with this? The recommendation is at 4%. I don't know that I think 4% is necessarily right, or I want to make sure that the ordinance does state that council will look at it every year during the budgeting process to determine whether that rate needs to stay the same or go up or go down in order to accomplish the budgetary goals of the city moving forward.
Yeah, I have no issue working language like that into the ordinance. That's easy enough. Like we had stated earlier, this isn't set like property taxes, which is mandated, and there's a very specific timeline that we evaluate it annually. you could go years without evaluating that. But if this is council's desire to evaluate this annually, we'll set that into the ordinance. If you want to take 1% this year, get through the budget process, and at the budget process, know going into the next year, we're going to reset that rate, we can certainly look at that and probably take a little higher level look at what we're going to do with property taxes at that time as well.
I think it makes sense to build that into the ordinance and take a look at it. It does give council the opportunity that way to know whether there's a shortfall, whether there's a excess amount. Maybe you're right, maybe assessments will level off and people won't be paying, but I don't see anybody's insurance premiums going down anytime soon.
Mine did.
Yours did?
I did. I don't know how, I don't even want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it.
Maybe I need your agent's name.
I don't know. Any other discussion? All right, next item on the agenda, Mr. Hunt.
Yes, ma'am. So Vice Mayor Whalen requested this item be put on the agenda. And then with that, the 2024 memorandum that I'd sent out the last time that we had discussed elected officials' compensation. I did put a memo as associated with the former memos that I'd sent out. And in my memo, I did state that I have not revisited this. I have not conducted any additional salary surveys. So with that, I really don't have much to add, but happy to turn it over to council for discussion. If there's any questions, I will go as far back in my brain as I can remember from 2 years ago and try to answer them.
All right, it's me again, I guess.
Any other discussion? Ms.
Here I
Whalen?
am. To ask for this to be put on the agenda because I think of everything that I heard about and other members of council perhaps heard about was this increase in elected officials' compensation and the substantial amount that it was being increased by. I've done this for a long time, knew what the job paid when I took it, and benefited from a rubber dollar or a cost of living increase every year, just like our employees did. Looking at the salary survey, the information that was provided when this was discussed the first time, every time the city would do a salary survey for our employees, it was important for us to take a look at neighboring cities, what they were paying their police officers, what they were paying their firefighters, what they were paying their public services director or employees, what the management level of the community was being paid at. We wanted to make sure that while we didn't necessarily need to be first, we needed to be very competitive. It was important that our employees were paid at a rate that was comparable with the cities and areas surrounding us, because if you're going to leave a job here, it's going to be to go to the neighboring city that's paying more, has more benefits, has better, days off, whatever that might be. When this was done for elected officials, this was not done on neighboring cities. This was not done on northern Kentucky. The comparison for the proposal for council included Covington, but it also included Paducah, Nicholasville, and Richmond.
Correct.
The comparison for the mayor's position included a comparison with Georgetown, Jeffersontown, Hopkinsville, Elizabethtown, and Shelbyville. I don't think anybody's going to choose to move to Elizabethtown to run for mayor because the salary's better. I think that comparatively speaking, this is a whole different approach than we've ever taken with our employees, trying to match populations, trying to match council members, trying to match those type of things. It still is far outside of our local area. These are jobs we take, jobs we run for because we want to serve the public. These are jobs that we get involved in because it is truly the definition of public service. It's unfortunate when jobs like these become a primary source of income, something you can't afford to lose as you move forward through the process. The state of Kentucky took very good care of the counties. The judge executives, the county commissioners, all the elected officials at the county level were given a base pay, an increase based on the number of years they served. That's what they did for the counties. They did nothing of the sort for the cities. The city elected officials, and I guess I don't know whether the county officials or not, but there is what they call a rubber dollar increase every year. And that is a cost of living that is applied to an elected official's salary, because no elected official can vote to increase a salary for themselves while they're serving in office. These increases can only take effect following the election for the next term. So I wanted to bring this up again, have some more discussion about it, propose rolling this back from, and I guess my question to you is, it was proposed at $86,937.
Correct.
Is that where it stays, or did the rubber dollar increase get attached to that moving forward as well? Because it would have in all these Hopkinsville and E-Town where it was compared to.
Correct. Good question. I remember that coming up. It did not carry at the time. It was not going to carry over. So it doesn't start until January 1st, 2027, so the COLAs wouldn't be attached to that.
So it still will not match up with
No.
Hoptown or,
It's going to be way under, and I think that, and I didn't look at the most recent DLG rubber dollar increase, because it gives you your maximum allowable compensation.
oh, I know it's high. It came out today.
Oh, did it? What was it?
Well, 2.7 is the rubber dollar increase, and the maximum's, I don't know, 100 and, anybody else look at it today?
It's like, I think 94
Yeah.
for cities that aren't of the first class.
So
Sure.
cities that aren't of the first class,
Somewhere around there.
$94,000.
Correct.
So, again, that is one of the things that we've heard more about, that I've heard more about than I know other council members. Topics of conversation is, that's a pretty substantial increase, even though there hadn't been a voted increase on the position for
18 years.
2018.
Yep.
There's always a question that was raised with me, and always a question I said wasn't worth the fight or the battle to do. So I still feel that way, and I still feel like, as a public servant, this is why we're here.
So, I guess a few things. Using another city in Northern Kentucky is not applicable. It's not.
I understand what you're saying, but it was applicable when we compare all of our other employees. It's just not applicable when you want to compare an elected official.
Well, you have to take into account the types of government, the size of businesses, the number of households. Are they a full-service city? Which is probably the biggest thing that disqualifies people in Northern Kentucky, is there's not a lot of full-service cities. I spent days trying to find sister cities to the city of Florence that match us as much as possible through and through. These are the most comparable cities that you can base a mayor's salary on. Police officer position is very much the same in Erlanger as it is to Florence. The mayor position is not. It's a totally different city. So I think that the cities that I used were perfect. I mean, they're sister cities to the city of Florence. Population, households, estimated number of businesses, we actually beat these cities in just about every category. We're one of the only cities that don't operate underneath the Water and Sewer Commission. We were back in the day, and we eliminated that, but we do that in-house now. And the biggest thing that I looked at was, it surprised me the number of fire departments that are part of a county fire district. There's not a lot of city fire districts that are out there, and that was very important to capture that in there. That way you were comparing apples to apples.
Again, the best job that a mayor can do is to hire professional, competent, qualified department heads to provide the direction and manage the staff that they have. I mean, that's the hardest job, and the best job is to make sure that we are providing a high level of professionalism and competent, qualified leadership. And we do. We have that. So it's hard to sit and want to compare Florence to other places when we don't. We don't compare any way you look at it. I mean, we are unique in and of ourselves.
In Northern Kentucky, you're 100% correct.
Oh, even across the state.
Yeah.
We operate at with more reserves than any other city in the state. We are the envy
Sure.
of every city in the state. And we've managed to do that because we do have the right people doing the right things. So, again, that's the conversation, that's the things I've heard. And I tell you, Josh, I had to look up the big word you used,
Which one?
ANALOGOUS.
I know I can't-
Analogous?
I had to look it up.
I'm sorry.
It's like, okay, I feel stupid, but
Well,
I would've
that's,
said
that's never
kinda
my,
like,
it's
you know?
never my intent. So is there, I guess, what are the next steps? I guess first thing, Gary, Pat, you voted on this. This was a topic that we went through multiple different meetings on. Became in the newspapers, everything else. You heard all the data, heard the presentation. Is there any desire for us to, do another salary survey, to look at all this again? And the only thing I could say is if the ranges have went up, I do stand by the cities that I compared this to. Is there a desire to do that? Do that work?
I voted no when it first came up, and I would agree with Diane, and I would be very much agreeing to look at our salaries and the mayor's salary again.
Okay.
Everyone knows how I feel about this, even though I wasn't part of the initial vote, but I too agree.
Okay. David?
It's not part of the initial, but open to discussion.
Okay. Okay. So, new salary survey? Is that what you want to
Whether
request?
you need to go to all the effort to go through that.
Absolutely does.
I mean, what are we basing it on?
What you based it on to start with. Decision was made based on this information.
I'm not following, I'm sorry. So it was based off that information to provide an adjustment. Are you not wanting to change it, or what? If there's no new information, then what are we changing it to? What are we changing the compensation level
Well, I think
to?
that's the discussion that we need to have.
And you don't need any additional information with COLA increases, anything like that?
I mean, we know what the COLA's done.
Sure. Well, I guess you're here, discuss it. I don't, if you don't need any more information,
Is there a, I know that Leslie had talked about during the budget retreat, whether we as council members were required to take the rubber dollar increase.
correct.
And do we know that?
You are required the way it is written now, and that's why, I remember us having some kind of conversation about, could you offset it through some kind of base salary that automatically adjusted based off the DLG guidelines? That sounds probably more complicated than it is. I don't know the answer to that. We're gonna have to look into that from a legality perspective, assuming that there's an appetite from council to do that. And I don't have that answer tonight. And we can't look into that.
Our council would have the ability to roll the salary back through a new ordinance without having to talk about the,
I think if we built the formula or built the ordinance right, the language in the ordinance, it would basically be automatic. I don't know that we can put language in there, because we had talked about, can we just change it from shall to should or may?
I think we
And the
decided-
guidance we got is we couldn't do that. So then the other thought was, could you do some kind of offsetting factor, that the base salary is this until you get the DLG recommendation, say it's 2%, the base salary reduced by 2% based off of that recommendation. I have no idea if that's legal, just need to figure that out.
are we able to reduce the base salary?
You certainly can reduce the base salary as long as you do it before the first May and Monday preceding election.
And then to find out whether or not, as they've asked, whether council has the right to refuse a rubber dollar if that's the desire. I mean, that's the second piece of it, if they're able to reduce the base salary.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'd have to look at that wording that we talked about for the rubber dollar, but I don't know about, you certainly can reduce your base salary for council. I mean, that's a given. Now, I will say, and I did put in my memo that, and I know you'll all probably disagree with this, but reducing compensation for council members after the filing deadline can be critiqued by general people of, I applied for a position, I know it's not about money, but I applied for a position with a certain compensation structure in line, and now you're reducing it. That would not fly in the private world at all.
Applying for a job and refusing to accept it if you're not happy with the compensation, I mean, that does happen in the private sector a lot, doesn't it?
I've never heard of anybody applying for a job and then with a salary that is posted and then the salary being reduced after the applicants have applied. I've never heard of that.
Or the
Probably not-
offer made?
Yeah.
I think people can withdraw from the election if they
You
don't.
could. That's a great tactic, get people to not run against you.
Yeah, so I don't know if that looks very well, reflects positively.
But at the same time, we all know, and I would hope that we want to do this position as public servants, not for the salary, so.
There are situations where reducing the base pay can be considered personal benefits. So say you're in a certain tax bracket, and this next COLA increase pushes you into the next one, but so you're going to reduce the salary so you don't have to pay more taxes. That's personal benefit. And there's other scenarios as well that plays into that, so you need to be mindful of it.
Any further discussion?
Well, I have no direction, so I don't, do I need direction? You guys got it? I have no idea what you want me to do with this. We know the statutory timeline, so there is some time. We've got a little bit of time on this, but if you don't need anything from me, I guess it's on you all.
We need to know what the last day to have this discussion would be.
Okay, we can do that, for sure.
Ms. Wingo?
I guess I want a little bit more information,
Okay.
okay? Because I know that there are some requirements, I think, for hours for the mayor to
There are,
work.
sure.
And I think we have to take that into consideration. This isn't something where you can just say, oh, I'll come whenever.
Yep.
You know,
It's
it
a
doesn't
minimum
work
of
that
20
way.
hours a week,
Pardon?
20 hours a week, 100 hours a month.
But that's
To be
changed.
considered full-time.
That's changed as
For health
well.
insurance, it's
That-
changed?
That's for pension. For health insurance, because Mr. Ski's, rest his soul, we were in executive session, well, I guess I shouldn't talk about that. Let me frame it a different way. Mr. Ski's told me prior to executive session, so I'm not disseminating anything, that there was basically something that he received from J.D. Cheney where mayors can receive health insurance. There was without going through a formal vote. So because mayors receive health insurance, it defers back to the personnel policy because we do not have a formal policy. And the policy in our personnel policy manual states that you have to work 30 hours a week in order to get health insurance in the city of Florence. Therefore, it'd be my opinion that the mayor is a full-time employee and does have to work 30 hours a week because she or he or whoever holds the position gets health insurance.
But the pension is 20 hours a week,
That
20
is,
hours a month?
that is the minimum that you have to work for a defined benefit is 100, correct?
There's it would not necessarily be, like you said, defined benefit. It's not
And
like
that
a,
is
it's not a pension like
it's
a
not they
tier
don't-
one.
They don't view it as a part-time, full-time for your service time, right? It's a service time calculation for pension, and that is 100 hours. It's different for pension.
Provide us with the date, and then what other information, legal requirements?
I can do it.
Any other discussion? Next on the mayor's report, we have the City of Florence is collaborating with Hawksford Blood Center and hosting a blood drive Thursday, February 5th. You can register online at Hawksworth on their city website, or you can contact Hawksworth at 513-451-0910. All donors will receive a Hawksworth vintage crew neck as a thank you. The city will have a President's Day display February 16th through the 20th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the lobby of the Florence Government Center. Books and Bottles, the Book and Literacy Festival will be upcoming. It's an evening event at the Florence Nature Park on February 27th from 6 to 8:30. And the Friday evening event will have light snacks and refreshments, and we will hear from authors about their books. Registration is available on the city's website. And the festival will continue with children's programming on Saturday, February 28th from 10 to 12 at the Florence Nature Park Event Center, featuring an author story time, a puppet show, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. And for more information, you can contact Tina Benjamin at the Community Services Coordinator at 859-647-5425. Is there anyone on council who desires recognition? Ms. Cable?
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you, Eric, and your team last week. You guys did an amazing job. And I know as the snow comes, you guys will continue to do an excellent job, so thank you.
Any department heads? Ms. Chief Mallory?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to address the perception that illegal parking is rampant throughout the city and that the police officers aren't doing their jobs. In 2025, our officers handled hundreds of parking-related complaints on city streets, apartment complexes, and in businesses. Of those complaints, 55 resulted in parking citations. The comparatively low number of citations can be caused by several issues. One, the vehicle was gone when the officers arrived. Two, the complaint didn't fit the ordinance, so there wasn't any violation. But most often, what the officer does, they run the tag, find out who owns the vehicle, try and make contact with the owner, and go up and talk to them and educate them on the ordinances and advise them that they need to move their vehicle. Community-oriented policing, if you may. Our officers are not simply just slapping $30 parking tickets on vehicles and moving on. When a vehicle presents a traffic hazard or there are repeated violations, officers will issue citations or even tow the vehicle. Our officers are on duty every day, putting themselves at risk to protect this city. And we're talking about parking tickets. Not about the 57,000 calls for service that our officers respond to in a year. Not about the 4,187 traffic citations that they issued for speeding, running stop signs, running red lights, and not about the 198 DUIs they got off the streets in 2025. These are the issues that cause concern and danger to the citizens. We recognize that issues that affect an individual understandably top that concern for that person, but we got to look at the larger picture. If illegal parking is among the city's most significant concerns, that reflects positively on our department. As stated in our mission, we work in partnership with the community to preserve peace, protect the rights of persons and their property, prevent crime, and provide general assistance to citizens. So if you see a parking complaint, report it, and we will address it appropriately. Finally, we are extremely proud of the dedication and professionalism our officers demonstrate every day in service to this city, and we appreciate the support we receive from our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Mallory. Any other department heads?
Chief, if someone wants to report something like that, can they use the City of Florence app to do that or to call your office?
Yeah, there's a report of concern on the app. They can call the office, they can call the non-emergency number. If it's, like I said, if it's a traffic concern, they can call the non-emergency number.
Which is
And the officer will respond.
859-371-1234.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone in the audience desire recognition? Will you please come to the podium?
My name is Roger Berger, and I live on Fountain Drive in Florence. I guess three things. One, I don't think there should be a salary increase for members of the council and for the mayor, because I do agree that it is a public service, and that's what it should be. And I think that when the public sees that elected officials, no matter what level of government, get increases, they vote increases for themselves, that's a very negative reflection. And I think that one should try to avoid that if possible. Secondly, that you talked about reduction of taxes for the insurance from 5 to 4%. When people look at when I look at my taxes on my insurance, I don't think about Florence. I think it's a tax that's being leveled by government. I'm sure you can find $1 million that you can put someplace else that would do citizenry much better than reducing that tax down. The third thing I would have as a suggestion, council and administrative staff use acronyms for all kinds of things that the city, the county, and the state, like who knows on television what a rubber dollar is? I don't. And so I would make a recommendation that when people speak, rather than in acronyms, they give the name of the department or departments or what they're talking about. That would be helpful for people that are viewing and for people like me who come to council meetings. That's all I have to say, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Dan Woody, and I just want to speak on what Chief Mallory mentioned as far as, obviously, the police department's done a great job with that, with parking and that. I think what prompted your comments regarding that was the comparison between that and the code enforcement complaints, several, at a past council meeting. I think if the code enforcement did a little bit more community-oriented code enforcement, similar to what the police department does, and made it a little less confrontational, maybe you wouldn't have that comparison coming up.
Would you mind if I speak to that?
Sure.
So our way of handling, similar to what Chief just discussed, where they go out and try to contact the owner and get them to move, what we do is provide a courtesy notice. We could go straight to citations, and we don't do that. So we actually send a courtesy notice that has the issues. We ask them to call us. We work with them. If we put 7 days and they want 14, okay, you can get it done in 14. There's not been a time where we haven't worked with somebody that has worked with us. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but we don't go straight to citations. We try to work with people.
Right, and figure out a way to resolve the issues.
Correct.
It solves it for the community.
Absolutely.
Rather than putting a huge burden on that homeowner if they can't afford some of the actions right away.
Absolutely.
Maybe
I'm
work
sorry.
with them a little bit more than maybe you have been. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'll tell you on that front, if we run into an issue where someone has said, I just can't take care of this, or maybe they're elderly, maybe they're disabled, whatever the reason may be. We're currently working with Katie James. She has a group of organizations that probably, since she's been around, has helped maybe 10 people.
Like volunteers.
Yeah, so she has groups, whether it be churches or who, I don't have that list of individuals.
Okay.
So we will do that.
Okay.
And we will also, let's say we run in that situation, pre-Katie and those things, we've extended things out 6 months before, just so people maybe have time to get back on their feet and get through those things. So if they're working with us, we're working with them. The goal is not to cite people. It never has been. So.
Right, yeah, the citations really don't bring in that much money.
They don't.
After all. And I think that comparison kind of, it rubbed a sore spot with the police department. I think that's what caused you to make those comments, and I just wanted to bring that up. And I totally get it. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. A second? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.